Okay. Hey guys, this is Keith War, and I am live right now with Demian San
Martin.
or San Martin. I know what I want to call you,
like
Marina.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. Because I'm from Miami, I get it.
Okay. All right. So let's see. We got one thumbs up. So we got a viewer here. How you doing there, guys?
Is that what that is?
Yep. All right, Dwarf Bagina. At least that's your YouTube name, anyway.
Well, thank you for coming out. I appreciate that you're here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the issue of homelessness.
Can you guys hear us? Is he speaking loud enough? Am I speaking loud enough, or am I speaking too loud? Like, how are you guys doing? Do you guys hear? How is the sound, guys? If somebody can give me a little feedback and let me know how the sound is.
Thumbs up.
So now I see we got 3 viewers. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so I don't know if you guys watched the video I did a couple days ago with Demian, and you know, he's a pretty enlightened guy on the subject of homelessness, obviously, you know, through living it. Hey, Sandy.
How are you?
Yes. So Sandy and her husband Bill are big supporters of mine. Some of the, you know, the stuff, the shaving kits and stuff like that, you know, that stuff comes from
Oh, really? Like
her.
those little bags you bring?
Yes.
Oh, hey guys, I gotta say thank you for that. That's believe it or not, it does make an impact. So thank you for doing that. If you could hear me.
Yeah, great stuff. And you know, Miss Noel, for if you're there, for your continued support. You know, that really makes a difference. Jason Blue, your support and the little donation button on the channel, you know, really good stuff. Putting that to good use. Yes. So how about you, Sandy? Did you see Damian's interview that was published? I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday it was published. And did you have any questions for Demian?
Yeah, anybody that has questions, please feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to, so don't hesitate.
So Demian is going to say, we're going to ask him about how he spent last night. You had a unique experience, right?
Last night was a very great experience. I didn't see it. Sandy says she didn't see it. You didn't see the video, Sandy. Okay.
So how did you spend last night?
So last night I do something which is called couchsurfing.com. You know, as you guys, if you watch the interview, you know that I've been traveling for a while. So I'm a traveler. Oh, she said she'll watch after this.
Okay.
I'm a traveler, and I use this website, and I came across a very unique individual, which I've learned that there's a lot of great people out there. So. And I had a very enriching night last night. I was able to sleep in a bed and be with somebody that I guess.
Well, you weren't with somebody. You were with somebody, but you weren't with somebody like that.
No. Yeah. No, not like that.
Right.
Be with, you know, sitting down with somebody that really understands what humanity is and what we should be doing to address these issues. It was just nice to meet normal people as opposed to the ones that hate what it is being homeless. He followed the blog. He saw the interview, and he was still more than welcome. You know, him and his family were welcome to say, hey, come on over, we're going to feed you, we want to hear your story.
So he knew that you appeared on Homeless in Titusville.
He saw Homeless in Titusville, yes, he did.
That was real cool.
Yeah.
So you guys, if you notice in the description on his video, I did put a link to his art and stuff like that in his blog. I don't know if any of you have gotten a chance to look at some of the art and read his blog and stuff like that. He's trying to, you know, use his time best he can while he's out here homeless on the streets, you know, documenting this experience, stuff like that, right? Because he's hoping this is going to be a one and done. Right, you don't. I mean, because you don't want to continue living like this.
No, I don't, and I just, you know, I'm out on the streets and I am living the homeless life, but I'm not going to sit there and say I'm per se homeless.
Well, you're mentally you're trying to stay out of that space because there's a lot of guys that fall into that.
Right,
space.
I'm homeless as far as, you know, I don't have a roof over my head and I'm not supporting my own domain that I can go just my own cave.
Right.
I'm out here and I'm actually experiencing what it is like to be homeless. I'm out here on with with an eye on what's happening and being able to see what's taking place within this social issue.
Mm.
And instead of doing it with knowing that I have a comfort to go back to,
Mm.
like some of the people we were talking about,
Yes.
I'm just out here.
Right.
And uh, who knows when I'm gonna get back to a place, but I'm making the best of being out here.
Mm. Yeah, I don't want to, call out anybody's name other than one guy named James Worley, who started a movement called Homeless Lives Matter. He's a great guy. I really
Okay.
appreciate James Worley. But a guy we're kind of alluding to, he had lived out amongst the homeless and said, he was homeless and blah, blah, blah. But at any time, he had the financial means to, one, make himself very comfortable while, quote, homeless on the street. And he could have ended it at any time. He earned a pension from the VA. He did his time in the military, but, he wasn't destitute. At any time, this social experiment could end for him. And he's kind of the mindset he really doesn't like I said, I'm not going to mention him by name, but he does not like that I do interviews. He thinks that they're wrong and horrible and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But if you were to know who he is and what he doesn't see a problem with secretly filming the homeless with his phone, which, I mean, some people have issues. Like, how would you feel about that if somebody was like talking to you and they were like, and you found out they were secretly filming you? Would that bother you?
I mean, I'm sure it would bother me, but here's the thing. Everybody's kind of trying to do their part, which is great. I really congratulate for what he's doing, because it is
right. He is doing something, because a lot of people do nothing.
Right, he is doing something. Every organization is trying to do something. It's not like they're not doing anything, and I really want to come across correct that, I'm not going to sit there and say that anybody's doing anything better than everybody else. I'm just saying that the wheel is...
Well, some kind of are doing it a little better than others. I mean, to a degree.
To a degree, because they have the resources and they're in different positions, and yeah, I definitely understand that. But I guess what my message is that everybody needs to break away from thinking that they're the only ones.
Right. And their way is the only way.
And their way is the only way. That goes against wanting to resolve the issue of homelessness, which is it's going to be a long-term battle, but I think the solution could be very easy as far as starting.
And this could happen to anybody. I mean, you never thought in a million years you'd ever be homeless. Am I right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you didn't say to yourself when you were a kid, one day I hope to be homeless.
No, not at all. And I could see how easily it could happen. And I can see how easily, when it does happen, how mental illness will just kick in, and it will cloud your vision. You can't jump these hurdles that are being asked of you.
And you said even before you were homeless that you were impoverished, that you and your spouse, that most people don't make a living wage, Like, I think that's a big problem. I know I saw recently, there was a study done in Orlando about 2 years ago, and it said to make what's considered a living wage here in the Orlando, Central Florida area.
Sandy said it exactly right.
Yeah,
she said
one
most
paycheck.
of us are only, and that's what you were leading to. You got families that any illness, any disaster, loss of job, are out on the streets.
Yeah.
So, the homelessness issue is not just, let's get the guy off the street.
Right.
The homelessness issue is, we're talking economical, we're talking on a social level, we're talking... you know what I don't get? Why is this such a taboo subject? I don't understand why homelessness is it's like a subject that everybody has to be quiet about, and they're worried about sharing their opinions. We're talking about other human beings and something that's affecting our society. It takes tax dollars to not rehabilitate, but to keep the shuffle going
right
in the homelessness. And I don't understand why it's such a taboo subject. I mean, we're not talking about any crazy sexual act or anything like that. We're talking about what's actually really happening out in this world, or in our country, as far as economic stands. You got people that are a paycheck away, they're going to be out on the streets. So why are we scared to talk about this?
Well, back to that study that I was talking about, it said that a living wage for a single person in the Central Florida area was $16.78. That's just for a single, and that was 2 years ago, so it's probably rounded, you know, basically $17 an hour. I don't know too many people that make $17 an hour.
No, not at all.
I mean, I know people that will say they make 12 or 13 and they'll go, oh, I got this great job, it pays great money. And then they tell me that they're making 12 or $13. Right. And I'm like, you are like a hair from homelessness. You know, they have no savings, they have no sick time, no nothing, no benefits, no...
Well, how can you when the cost of living is very expensive, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to make $17 an hour just as a single person. And let's think about, you know, two people making minimum wage. There's a lot of couples. So minimum wage is about $8, $8.25. So there's $16.50, their combined financial earning power. But then they usually have one or two kids.
Right.
And so, you know, now that's out the window. So, you know, they're the working poor. These people they're working full time, but they're going to food banks and they're relying on supplemental food stamp. They qualify for all these government benefits. Did you qualify for benefits over your adult lifetime? Like, were you on and off?
No.
Because, like, I know that's the way I grew up. I grew up on that stuff.
I grew up very, very differently. We didn't have.
I mean, as an adult. No, yourself as an adult. Like,
no, even as an adult.
No.
I have a very different stance on all that. Just because of how I was raised and how I grew up. It really has nothing to do with, you know, being ashamed or nothing like that.
But I find a lot of people too, they will tell me, like, for instance, they'll say, you know, if I were to make $50 less a month, I would qualify for like $300 or $400 in benefits. You know, and like something's wrong with that they don't prorate and say, well, listen, a guy's $50 over and he's losing out on like $300 or $400. Like, why can't we take that? It boggles my mind, you know. Like, sometimes you have to keep yourself poor. Like, let's say you have a kid that's sick, and you need that insurance from the state.
Right.
You literally, if you don't keep yourself poor, you're gonna be poor either way because you can't afford the health care.
So then that's again where everybody needs to come together, and we have to work on changing policy. We need to work on changing economics. You know, homelessness is not just about the guy that is in the street. There's really a bigger picture to it, and that's where the awareness really needs to start coming out. It's not just the panhandler holding the sign. You know, it's such a broader issue.
Right. I know there's people living in the hotel room here in Titusville. They're homeless. So, people living in cars.
Right. And I'm lucky enough within myself to know that I'm going through a certain direction. So I'm living the experience. I have to challenge the mental aspect of it because it is very difficult. But what really centers me and allows me to focus on being okay and moving forward is the fact that I have a purpose. Now, when you're out here on the streets with no purpose and you're just kind of wandering, you know, of course you're going to fall into addiction, you know, and then you get recycled through the system, and, you know, you're going to jail for trespassing and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
It's something that, you know, when all these organizations are, you know, we're doing this, all right, well, we need to focus on this aspect of it. It's very important because this is mainly what the community sees. Let me
get a little political with you right now, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way.
Can we do questions and answers? Because I want to hear what some of the viewers, you know.
What you guys have. If you guys have any questions, by all means, go ahead and ask your question. But this political thing is that I have to say is, like, you know, I'm not going to say where I stand because, you know, people have hate and love either way. But you know, years ago, this thing called Obamacare was, you know, a big thing and passed and so on, and they talk about this being for the poor and so on. So here you are, quote, at the bottom of the barrel right now, homeless. Do you have Obamacare? Do you have health care? Like, if you got sick, what would you do?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never pursued it, so I can't really answer on it. I don't know if I was able to get it.
If you got cut or stepped on a rusty nail out here, what would you do?
Well, you know, I kind of live through...
No, I'm being serious. Like, if it got infected and, you know, like, and you had...
I've never been in that situation, so I can't answer. I guess I would go to the emergency room. I know at one point I did get Obamacare for me and my ex-girlfriend, and we were paying a good amount of it.
So you paid enough of the premium, like you really felt... You were paying a premium. It wasn't free.
No, it wasn't free. It was almost $200 a month. And for health insurance, actually, that's pretty good.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, if you can afford it.
If you could afford it.
Right.
You know, and I was in that position where we could afford it. So if we're going to start talking about, you know, if it should be universal health care and, you know, if it should be all that, in my opinion, yes, I think everybody should have health care. Do I know enough about the topic as far as the money behind it and all that to really answer a question towards it? I don't.
How would you rate Titusville or Brevard County or Central Florida as far as like help for the homeless? If like 10 is your utopian society, it's the greatest thing, and you know 1 or 0 is absolute garbage. So sorry I missed your video. In case you have something you already answered, how do you find, what did that say?
How do you find the place where you stay at, and how do you get cleaned up?
Yes.
I scouted out a location that it's difficult for most people to get to, and so that way I can keep some of my stuff there. Right. And as far as getting cleaned up, you just do bird baths. You know, you just try to make it happen as you go along. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge, and I like that you asked that, because
do you feel safe when you're, and I don't want you to give your position away because
no, you know what, I sleep every night with an eye open. I get very little sleep. You know, I may sleep an average of 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, just because you never know.
Well, what's the biggest thing that you're fearing? What are you worried that could happen?
Well, I carry my camera equipment, you know, so
robbery,
you know, robbery or just anything. You know, you're out in the elements, so you really never know who's coming. And I experienced that on my journey when I first started this trip. There was one time I was staying in a pavilion, and all of a sudden, you know, my eye was kind of awake while I was asleep, and out of the blue I have a guy standing over me, and you know, you don't know who this person is. You don't know what their intentions are. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have a random stranger standing out there. And what I've learned being out here is that's how most of the homeless sleep. They always sleep with some kind of awareness, because you know, they don't know what's going to happen. So I mean, just that in itself, it's exhausting, you know. And I've done it for so long at this point, where even last night where I stayed at, you know, I went to bed finally around 10:30 at night, and at 3 o'clock in the morning I was up, because I'm already kind of conditioned to not really sleep.
Let your guard down.
Yeah, let my guard.
Oh, that's a squirrel.
That's a squirrel. Yeah, let him have it.
Okay.
Not to be able to sleep fully and get that full night's rest, to where you can be productive in the morning. You know, it's a major challenge, and luckily, you know, for myself, I don't fall into, you know, really abusing the, you know, substance abuse, and I'm out here for a purpose, so that keeps me kind of centered and focused. But you know, some of the people that I see out here, this is their life. They have nowhere to go. Right. You know, there's no way out for them. So, you know, they escape the reality as much as they can during the day, and at nighttime when they're sleeping, they're not really sleeping. And then you're also in the elements. You know, a couple days ago it was raining and it got cold all of a sudden, and because of how I have myself, somebody asked, how often do I have the police?
Yeah, what's your interaction with Titusville Police specifically, or say Brevard Sheriff's Office?
Well, when I had my interaction with the Brevard Sheriff's Office, it was a little bit different. I wasn't involved really in the homeless thing yet. In Titusville, I did come across some of the police, and you know, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not have a negative experience with them.
That's great to hear.
They were actually very politeful, and I think that was because I showed them what I'm doing. You know, they see me that I have a lot of gear. They see that I have, you know, a purpose, and I'm driven. So they really didn't attack me in the sense of how they attack the normal homeless person. And that's where I think training needs to kick in. You know, as far as when it comes to the police departments, because they have the capacity to be compassionate and understanding, and realize that right here in the park.
How long are you planning on being in Titusville? Are you going to stay here until you get, quote, housed or off the street, or
no,
you planning on traveling? You going to St. Augustine? You going to New York?
I'm going to be moving really, really soon. You know, with our interviews and a couple of things we did with Fighter Edge, which I think it's a great organization, by the way. It's awesome that they're dealing with, you know, youth at risk. I want to do a couple little things with that, and then I will continue moving on. So I can't really give a time frame of when I'm leaving, but, you know, it'd probably be sooner than later, because, you know, or maybe not, you know, it just...
wherever life kind of takes you.
Wherever life kind of takes me, you know, and if there's a story and if there's a purpose that I can serve, then I will stay there until it's time for me to move on.
So let's talk about a little thing. For instance, like, have you eaten today?
I have eaten today.
You have, okay.
I have eaten today.
What's your diet usually like here on the street?
Again, I gotta sit there and say maybe it's a little bit different because of how I approach the situation. I've been actually pretty blessed. And you know, the funny thing about it is what really blessed me is the homeless people. You know, what I've learned is, okay, so they fall into their bad times, but they are the most giving, most caring people, you know. I have one gentleman that he's on verge of being homeless. He's been homeless, and he brings food every morning. You know, I have another gentleman that's actually homeless, and when he has food, he will share his food. And he actually goes out of his way to make sure other people have food. So it's kind of an interesting situation, you know. Between that and everything, I've been okay. I mean, there's been times where I have been hungry, you know, and you don't always get to eat what... When I say you get food, maybe it's a canned food. And have I tried the Pay It Forward?
The Pay It Forward. Yes, he's aware of the Pay It Forward program.
Very well aware of the Pay It Forward program. That's actually what dove me into this topic. You know, I was in contact with Sue from the Pay It Forward program because I used the program one day, and it's a phenomenal program. Is it the resolve to homelessness? No, it's not. What I think it is, it's a very important tool in the fight of homelessness, especially within this community, you know. So that's why I believe that everybody needs to come together. The Pay It Forward program is the Pay It Forward program, did you get that?
Yeah, CETA shelter in Melbourne. Somebody wants me to check that out and possibly, you know, get with them, do a video type thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, the Pay It Forward program, I think it's a great program, not just because it feeds the homeless, but it actually gets the community involved in what homelessness. It gives us a chance to let just the regular Joe know what's going on the streets and how they can do to help it. And if you mix that with other programs, other agencies, we can make a change. That's why I keep saying we have the resources available, we have the manpower, we just don't have the unity.
Right.
You know?
The one mind to get on this.
Yeah, the Pay It Forward program, I think it's a beautiful thing. You know, I've always been a big believer that businesses should be involved in social issues within their local community, and that's a great way to introduce these businesses into a social issue that really affects the community, not just on an appearance level, but on a tax level. You know?
Well, it's much more cost effective for us to help those in need than it is to shuffle them in and out of the jails.
100%, and I agree. You know, and I don't like to talk about it, but I experienced that as well. You know, I experienced what happens when you go to jail here in Brevard County, especially if you go to jail if you're intoxicated or if you're homeless, and how the system looks at you. And I gotta say, it's just very counterproductive to wanting to fix the situation. And you know, in our interviews, I sat there and said an agency is beginning to work with the sheriff's department in addressing that. I really hope they are, because just what's going on is kind of a little bit inhumane, I think. And there's no way that you're going to sit there and really fix this issue. And I don't think we're ever going to be able to fix the issue 100%, but I think we can close the gap and become really, really good.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And it bothers me too, you know, I see on the news, like, you know, America seems to be policing the world. yeah, a lot of people want to help, but they don't know how, you know. But let me touch on this. She said that people don't know how to help, you know. But I want to just have this little say, you know. I see stuff in the news about America policing the world and fighting this war and that war and the border and the wall and this and that and so on and so forth. And then I see commercials on TV for feed the children in Africa and all stuff. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, okay? But you have people in your own backyard that need jobs, need help, need food, need clothes, and you're talking about sending it overseas, or you know, or sometimes people at the border are getting all this, you know, health care and benefits
when
and
it
stuff
comes
like
down
that.
to that, you know, we're talking politics. And
right, it is politics, but at the same time, it's just, it's frustrating. It's maddening to think an American citizen can't get what they need, and they talk about budget deficits and so on and so forth. Well, quit policing the world, quit doing this, quit doing that, you know what I mean?
I think that when we're talking about this topic, you know, I understand that it's all a major play, but I think the most important thing is to educate community right now. And yes, there's all this other things going on, and you know, that's where the coalition, the Brevard Coalition for the Homeless is involved. They fight with policy, and they fight with this, and I'm sure there's other agencies more qualified to talk about that.
Right.
I think, you know, and going back to Sandy's question is,
how can somebody help you?
How can people help? I think that's the most important thing. I think that the community coming together and creating a presence together is what's going to really make an impact. And how can the community help? You know,
volunteer at your local shelter, the Hummingbird Pantry, or you can support a little guy like me a little bit, or you know, if you don't have a couple of bucks, you can, you know, they're always looking for volunteers at the soup kitchens.
This is what I think. You know, the power is in the people, and I think if all the people get together and sit there and say, listen, every group and every agency that's involved in doing something for the homeless, let's all sit down, listen to our concerns, hear what we're saying, hear what we want to see happen within our local community. You know, let your local government know that, hey, listen, we don't stand for this anymore. Because the power is in the people. Power is in the community. So if the community comes together and says, you know what, we don't know how to help, but we want to help. And we want to understand why this is allowed to happen in our community with the homeless. And we want to understand why we can't get, you know, effective treatments. And we want to understand why this is happening in our jail. We want to understand why. If the community comes together and does that, then all these people, all these groups are going to have to answer. And that's what we want. You know, we want these people to say, you know, we're, you know, a government, what's the saying?
Of the people, for the people, by the people.
Of the people, right, by the people. So we need to be the people. You know, we need to be the people, and if we have concerns because it affects our tax dollars, which it does, if we have concerns because it affects the appearance and the value of our neighborhoods, because it does, if we have concerns because we feel there's mistreatment of humanity, which it does, then as people, we need to come out and we need to start asking all these groups in a transparent form, in a way that everybody can see why.
And then some of the barriers, some of the qualifiers, the IDs, the this, the that.
Let's ask that question.
Like, if a lot of those barriers were out of the way.
The power comes in the people. It's what it comes down. We are small little vehicles to try to educate the people, but the power ultimately at the end, if we really want to change this, and I'm not saying on a grand scale, let's start small and scale it out. And there's models across the United States throughout different cities that they're addressing the homelessness, that they have great ideas.
Europe doesn't have a homelessness problem.
No, so why can't we look at their model and try to incorporate it? Instead of listening to what everybody's telling us about homelessness, the realistic thing is us as people have to go out and
hit the streets.
And hit the streets.
Talk to somebody. Do like I do. All right, listen, we are about to end this video. We could go on and on and on. Of course, but listen, I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching this. I appreciate you guys listening to Demian and his message. I want to tell you that if you want to support Demian directly, there in the description on his interview, in the bottom, you know, so you look at the little thing that I typed about it, there are different links that you can go on there. You can go on his GoFundMe if you want to give him a donation. If you want to go on there and look at his artwork and you actually say, hey, you know, he's a talented guy, I want to buy a piece of his artwork, you know, this isn't charity, I want to actually hire him and so on and so forth, you guys can do that. So, but like I said, I appreciate those of you who are giving up your time to check this video out, you know,
Thank you, Sandy.
and doing this live broadcast. And Sandy, like I said, you're a great supporter of mine, and Miss Noel and Jason Blue, you know, I appreciate your continued support. And I guess
and you know, if any of you want to contact me and ask any questions away from the interview, you know, you can as well. And you know,
you're on Homeless in Titusville on the Facebook
yeah.
page, Homeless in Titusville. You guys can send him a message there. You guys can friend him there and all that good stuff. And
I think we should get the Fighter's Edge involved in this. That's a great organization.
The Fighting Edge. I love the Fighting Edge. I was there today.
Great organization. That's something you should ask Keith a little bit more about.
Yes. I do videos for them. If you look up Fighting Edge Titusville on YouTube, you can check out some of the fights. I film them, edit them, all those other kind of stuff. But listen, like I said, we are going to have to run here so that you guys can get on with your day. I can get on with my day. But I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate you and thank you so much. And may you be just as blessed as you have blessed others. And until next time, thanks for watching.
Take care, guys.